I'm honored to bring you FCA's March hometown champion, head football coach of the Appomattox Raiders, Coach Doug Smith. He has been a football coach in this area for 35 years. Each Friday during the month of March, you will hear from Coach Smith. This week is his testimony of how his family came to know Christ and how he came to Liberty University in Central Virginia. Tune in each week to hear more from Coach and pray for him as he will be at Duke University soon for a stem cell transplant after being diagnosed with multiple myeloma in October.
Hello, my name is Doug Smith. I'm from Appomattox County High School, and first of all, I want to tell you how important FCA is to me and just let you know that without them, that organization, there's so many things that we could not have accomplished in our teams and our school, and so thankful to them. But my testimony probably starts from when I was born to age 9. At 9, I gave my life to the Lord, and you don't have to be 16, 25, whatever, to hear God's calling. At 9 years old, my mom had carried all three of us, I was the youngest of three, to church every Sunday and every Wednesday. My dad stayed home. He had a disease with alcoholism, and he would drink a lot every day. He worked a job and lost a few jobs, but he wouldn't go to church, maybe for a wedding, if I can remember right, but would not step foot in the church, and wouldn't have anything to do with it. He did love us. He came to all our games. He supported us. He loved us to death. He worked us like dogs. So that wasn't a problem. But the problem was, the alcohol. But anyways, my mom took care of those duties, and she was just so faithful. Spent a lot of time praying with us and reading God's word. And so thankful for her. But at 9, I knew I needed the Lord. I knew I wasn't saved. And I spoke to our youth pastor a little bit, but the pastor was speaking that day, and I knew I needed to go forward. I asked the person beside me, excuse me. I walked down the aisle, and I know, you really don't have to feel anything when you get saved. That's not the important part. I mean, it's just a step of faith, and it's trusting God as our Savior, and letting Him know that, we're a sinner and we need Him for salvation and to be in heaven. And that's basically what I did. But I did, some people do experience a feeling, and I experienced one that day. I felt like my whole body had been washed out with just the cleanest thing ever, and I just remember feeling that and thinking, man, this is awesome. But I realized later that wasn't the important part. It was just a step of faith, and I believe that the moment I asked the person to excuse me, I wanted to go down aisle to receive Christ, I believe I was saved then. There's no specific or special prayer you need, so I think that's important to understand. But from there, when you're 9 years old and when you're young, I tell our kids this all the time, things are black and white. They're yes and no, and hot and cold, and true and false. And when you get a little bit older, to be a teenager, things start to turn a little gray. You're not sure what's yes, what's no, what's hot and cold. You're not positive. You want to start testing things out, and that's what I did. I didn't get into drugs and alcohol. I stayed away from that because of the way my dad was, but I just did stupid things. I got involved in things I shouldn't have been involved in. Probably made some bad decisions, thinking it was fun, and that it just wasn't godlike. And I was testing out, this faith that I had, and there was a number of times I'd rededicate my life, and my whole life I'd spent close to University of Maryland. That's where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to play football, and Boomer Esiason was the coach, was the quarterback there right before I was getting ready to go, and I wanted to be the next guy there. And so I speaking to the coaches, and everything was working out. And about 2 weeks before that, I didn't realize my dad, he was staying home drinking on Sundays, but he was also watching Jerry Falwell, of all people, on TV, and that ended up being a blessing for us, because he had sent some film down, and he'd said, before you just go off to Maryland, would you just look at this place? And my mom was kind of curious about it, of course, so she said, just go ahead and go. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to, definitely wanted to, we didn't have cell phones back then, and we didn't have computers, so I knew nothing about Lynchburg. I knew nothing about this place, and I definitely didn't know anybody down there, and so I didn't want to go. My friends, my girlfriend from high school, all of my buddies and everything were going to Maryland, and that's where everybody went around here, and that was a neat thing to do. So anyways, took that trip. It was a one-day trip. I met the offensive line coach, Coach Keith, and then I met my position coach, the head coach, and then I met the guy that really spoke to my heart even more than any of them was Ed Gomes, Big G we call him. He was an RA then. He's the campus. I mean, he's the team chaplain now. But just some things that he said just hit me. And but on the way home, I threw that all off. I was like, I'm not going there. There's no way. Can't wait to get back home to my friends and get back to Maryland, and wanted to be there. So that was the thought. But I got home, and my mom, said, hey, let me talk to you. She has a way, and I think she's scratched my back or something. I was laying there, she's reading her Bible, and she said, just, I know it's hard, you don't know what to do. I was like, I know what to do, but she said, just do this, pray about it. And I knew she was going to say that, but she said, but be specific, pray for some specifics, and God will help you answer it. She knew I was dealing with it. Anyways, I went to my room that night. I got on my knees, and I felt like I was doing the right thing, but I was also kind of playing a little trick. And God knows all your tricks, and He knows your heart. He knows everything about you. And so I prayed, and I said, God, and because I knew this was, I think, a Saturday. The next day was Sunday. We're going to church, and then I think Monday. This is in the summertime. I was supposed to get a call from University of Maryland. We were going to meet with some players and throw some passes, and, with some receivers. So I knew that was coming up, and I said, God, the next coach that calls me, that's where you want me to go, and I'm gonna stick to that. I know this is an important decision. This is an important time in my life, so I need to make that, make it sure. And so I asked God to, give me the answer. But in my back of my head, I said, hey, I'm getting that call on Monday, and so I'm gonna pray that specific prayer. And so I thought I was doing something kind of, good, but at the same time tricky. And but God has His way. And so that again was Saturday. Sunday afternoon, after church, we were back home about 1. We ate, and at about 2 o'clock, got a phone call. Of course, we had the phone with the long cord in the kitchen. And I picked it up, went around the corner, and it was Coach Keith, one of the first guys that I had met there at Liberty. I spoke to him for a little bit, and I could tell my parents were kind of listening, but I hung up, and they said, who was it? I said, just one of the coaches. And I did not even tell the truth. I said, somebody from Maryland. I didn't know what to say, because I was like, oh my gosh. So I just prayed that prayer. And so a little later, I'm outside doing something, working with my dad or something, and another phone call comes, and my mom gets it, and she calls me in, and it's the head coach. And I got to talk to him for a little bit, and of course now she knows that I'm getting a phone call from Liberty, and then later my position coach called that night, and then a little bit later Ed Gomes called. And so what I want to tell you is, God, I went to my room and just laid down on my back and just looked up and said, God, I don't want to be there. And I know I prayed this specific prayer, but can I wait till Monday and do this again? Well, I didn't even get a call from Maryland on that next day. I didn't get one the next day. I think we got one later that week, but I'd already made my mind up. God has already spoken to me, and I cannot turn away from that. I didn't know what to tell my friends. I didn't know what to tell my people that expected me to be at Maryland. Practice was starting in a couple weeks, and it was so late, but it was just one of those things that I just knew that this is where I needed to be. And so I made that decision to go to Liberty, which was an outstanding decision for my life, because there I received all this time for prayer groups and Bible studies and things that I didn't think I needed, but yet that's what God knew I needed in my life. But I found out later it wasn't so much about me being there. It was really more about my dad. And because my dad would come to every game. Again, he always followed us in all our sports. But him and mom would come down. They'd watch every game, and they'd do the what the kids do. The kids go to church on Sunday. So he'd go to church. I didn't even know he had a suit, but he'd got some suit somewhere, and he'd go. And I didn't realize God was working in his heart. And I guess the ride home and everything would just be so good for him. And he started changing. I mean, he stopped drinking. He stopped smoking. I don't know when he actually gave his life to the Lord, but I knew something was happening. Something was different because he was just different. He had a mouth on him, and it was changing. I mean, he still, would throw some farm words around once in a while, but it was nothing like it was before in life. And then later, I was there till I think I started, finished there in around 85, and I started coaching in 86, 87, something like that. And just what a remarkable thing, because as I'm coaching there, they decided to move to Rustburg, and so they moved down, and then he becomes a member at Thomas Road and becomes an usher there. And later, we moved in with them in 2004 when I built this house, and I find out that I get up early to take a shower, and I see him. He's reading his Bible. He's got his prayer list out. He's praying. He's got where he's marking off what he's reading in the Bible. And I'm like, and I look back, and it's going back for a number of years. And I'm thinking, man, this is amazing what's happening in his life. I knew something had changed, but I didn't know it was that drastic. And so God had really, used that whole situation for him as well as me. And so what a blessing that was.
As you heard Coach Smith talk about FCA, he is passionate about it. He's one of the reasons I'm working for FCA now. The vision of FCA is to see the world transformed by Jesus Christ through the influence of coaches and athletes. Coach Smith is definitely fulfilling the vision of FCA. If you as a pastor, youth pastor, layperson would like to be involved with FCA, speaking to coaches or athletes, please contact Tim Hill or Cheryl Ellis. Tune in next week to hear about the career of Coach Doug Smith.